It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Warren.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live, where your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, cover breaking news, culture, and manic warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state. This is day number 2 of streaming backstage from the Unconfiscatable Conference, which is going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So this is kind of like the prelude to that. Today's going to be a very special show. Everyone is extremely excited about Bitcoin to the point that Bloomberg, this respectable financial publication, is predicting essentially $500,000 Bitcoin. And this comes on the heels of Adam Back, who's originally cited in the Satoshi Bitcoin white paper, predicting $700,000 Bitcoin. Also, we're going to pull up a lot of data and a lot of facts that you could say support those arguments. There's this very, very famous Twitter Spaces that Michael Saylor did, and he said that 3 things needed to happen in order for Bitcoin to 10x from here, for Bitcoin to take it up to the next level. And those 3 things are, number 1, the FASB accounting rules changed. Check that off. That already happened. An ETF, a Bitcoin ETF to be approved, and the capability for big banks to custody Bitcoin for their institutional clients. There's been much news about that throughout the world. Many banks are applying for licenses to do that and building out the infrastructure. So it looks like all the planets are aligning. And I think it's going to be a very, very exciting next couple of years. Also, we have a very, very special guest today. We have Romain. Romain is he is with Bai Sato. Romain, thank you so much for joining us on Simply Bitcoin today. We're super, super happy to have you. Romain does some very interesting things. Bitcoin mining, AI. This is so cool. I didn't even know that was a thing. So Romain, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be in your show. It's a pleasure to be with you in Vegas, even if I'm not there. Must be fun, and I've heard a great conference from your show from yesterday.
Thank you.
So Bitcoin miner, super focusing on efficiency for mining Bitcoin. Currently, as you said, adding AI into our business, because we think at the energy level, we can transform energy for computing power, for Bitcoin, and for AI and HPC. So this is a kind of trend that you see not only with us, in other Bitcoin miners who have made announcements into moving AI and or HPC. And again, this is because our job at the end, we transform energy into computing power. We can do what we can do for one, we can do for the other one. It's interesting for various reasons that I'm sure we will go over at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an honor to have you on the show today, Romain, and we're friends with anybody who is increasing the Bitcoin hash rate and further, securing the network. I'm also joined today with my 2 co-hosts, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, the Mr. of Flights, and of course, Rustin is with me today. He's the star of the Simply Bitcoin Originals. So it's going to be a great show. We're really looking forward to it. And let's just jump straight into it. So let's start with the numbers first. Let's go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, guys, I made it super easy for you guys. You can use the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off Don't put yourself in a position where you have to explain to your grandchildren why you lost your generational wealth. Put it on titanium. Anyways, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 43,735 sats per dollar, 2,286, block height 820,000. 284 blocks to having 19,716, having estimate April 20th, 2024, total Lightning Network capacity 5,038 Bitcoin, capacity value 220 million US dollars, realized monetary inflation 1.75%, the market capitalization of Bitcoin almost touching 1 trillion. We're at 855 billion US dollars. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 6.29%, continues to crawl up ever so slowly. So Elizabeth Warren continues with her relentless attacks. For anyone who is not based in the U.S., Elizabeth Warren is a U.S. senator from the state of Massachusetts. She also sits on the Senate Banking Committee, so she has a lot of influence when it comes to banking in the United States of America, and she's taken it upon herself. In fact, she's made it part of her campaign to take a quote-unquote anti-crypto approach. She was involved with she took advantage of the bogus Wall Street Journal article that came out a couple weeks ago to write a letter to the White House that prompted the White House to tap on the Treasury, and that prompted the Treasury to recommend the FinCEN proposal, which took advantage of the Patriot Act, would basically surveil more Bitcoin, the more Bitcoin transactions, the industry, more regulation. And it was all based on a misrepresentation of data and facts, right? We played you the video yesterday on yesterday's episode where she was interviewing Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is saying we should, ban this outright. But she's really, really accelerating. This is interview after interview after interview after interview, just talking about, Bitcoin is a threat. Bitcoin is a threat to national security. Bitcoin is a threat to America. And it's just crazy. But it's something that we've always said on the show on Simply. Bitcoin exposes incentives. That's really what it does. And I think that if you're someone like Elizabeth Warren, who has, $179,000 salary, but she's worth tens of millions of dollars, and makes you start to ask questions. I'm not making any assumptions. I'm not making any, I'm not accusing her of anything, but I'm just saying, there is a money printer in Washington, D.C. Anyways, so I do want to play you guys this video. It is, TFTC did a great job reposting it. Originally, it is from Squawkbox, CNBC. So the clip's about 3 minutes long. Let's check it out, and then we'll all talk about it. We'll discuss it.
I'm so curious what was going through your mind when you heard Jamie Dimon's response.
Look, when Jamie Dimon and I are in exactly the same place, it's because we have a serious problem in this country. And that is a part of the financial system is being used by terrorists, by drug traffickers, by rogue nations in order to launder money, move money through the system and finance their illegal activities. But keep in mind on this one, it wasn't just Jamie Dimon. We had a long, long table with the CEOs of all of the largest banks in this country. And when I asked the question, should the rules that apply to their banks, and by the way, also apply to stockbrokers and gold traders and credit card companies and credit unions and all the other financial transactors, should those same rules to deal with drug trafficking and terrorism financing and rogue nation financing, should the same rules be put in place? Every single one of them said, absolutely. So what this tells me is it's time for Congress to act.
Let me ask you, beyond Congress acting, there's a big question mark over whether the SEC is going to act on whether, for example, a Bitcoin ETF will ultimately get approved, which would expand access for Americans all over the country, potentially, to invest in Bitcoin. You've probably watched the price of Bitcoin has risen quite materially, even in the past several months, in large part on the back of that expectation. You know Gary Gensler very well. Do you have any expectation that something like that would take place, and would you support it?
So I don't want to speculate on what the SEC is doing here. I really want to draw an important distinction. And that is the SEC principally is talking about regulation, the kind of monitoring the platforms, the markets, make sure that there's adequate consumer protection, an issue that is built into the DNA of the SEC. It's an important thing to do. It's absolutely something they should do. What I'm talking about is the law enforcement aspect of this. It's not over at the regulatory agencies. What I'm talking about is the part of the system that makes sure that banks are not being used for terrorist financing, for example. We have something called the Bank Secrecy Act, which is how banks are required to monitor certain kinds of transactions that go through the system. It was written in the 1970s following 9/11. The law enforcement folks went back, looked at what had happened, figured out how the financing had made it through the system, and that's the last time that Congress updated the Bank Secrecy Act. What we need to do is we need to update it again because there's a new threat out there. It's crypto, and it is being used for terrorist financing. It is being used for drug trafficking. North Korea is using it to pay for about half of its nuclear weapons program. We can't allow that to continue.
So okay, so a lot, you're hearing this and you're like, wow, this industry is terrible. Like, it's so many things. And she mentioned a couple things. So the terrorism, and then you have to connect that with the Wall Street Journal article, which claimed initially that $130 million was raised using quote unquote crypto. Sam Callahan did a great job, and other Bitcoiners. Preston Pish wrote an amazing piece. The actual number was roughly $450,000. Very, very, a lot smaller than that original, $130 million claim. And then she mentioned North Korea. Now, that's very interesting because North Korea was mentioned by the U.S. Treasury when they sanctioned, for the first time in American history, open source software. And I'm talking about Tornado Cash, right? So you can see the narrative that's being built. Here is the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis, and she has the data. And the data points to a very, very different story, because you hear that interview and essentially you're like, wow, the terrorism is being financed by crypto. Terrorism is being financed by Bitcoin. This is a major, major issue. But if you actually look at the data, Senator Cynthia Lummis, agrees with the initial, what we've been saying about the Wall Street Journal article. She says an inaccurate report last week claimed Hamas raised nearly 100 million via crypto assets. In reality, it was less than 500,000. This encapsulated the misconception that crypto is a tool for illicit finance when it accounts for less than 1% of global illicit finance activity. And here's a graphic that we've been showing to you guys over the last couple of days. Total illicit finance, 2.9 trillion. Crypto accounts for less than 1%, 0.69%, or 20 billion of the total pie. Where does the rest of that illicit finance happen? Where does it occur? In the traditional financial system where the rules are already in place. So, it goes to question, what are Elizabeth Warren's true motivations? What is she really, really, what is she really interested in here? So I'm going to pass that on to Romaine. And the way that I'm going to frame it to you, Romaine, is, look, your business, is based on Bitcoin. And she's taken it upon herself to attack the industry, under the guise of money laundering, under the guise of terrorism, any excuse, under the sun, essentially. So what is your take on this? Does this surprise you at all? Where's your stance?
Well, it's not a surprise in the sense that it's not new. But it hasn't started with Elizabeth Warren. It has started with every new invention that was invented since the electricity. There is always someone who's against and try to refrain the use or having more people going into that. Right now, the cycle is about crypto and Bitcoin. And I think one thing that she probably misunderstood is the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. She often talks about crypto. We do Bitcoin. We are Bitcoiner. Bitcoiner, as you know, is a unbreakable blockchain, unbreakable accounting method, if you want, on different kind of transactions. This is not used by terrorists. This is not used to launder money. It's a fact. So I think that's really, at the end, you either fight the technology or you embrace it and you make sure that it's done correctly. I'm not against rules. I think we need to have some rules at some point, at least little rules. But when you look in the US anyway, if you're in crypto, in this case, not only in Bitcoin, but in crypto, you're probably using Gemini, Coinbase to access and buy crypto, which is one is listed on the Nasdaq, the other one have different kind of regulation in place, KYC, etc. So there are rules, and we are so small today. I mean, you were looking at your numbers. It's great. We are approaching the 1 trillion valuation for Bitcoin. The gold valuation market cap is around 10 trillion. So we still have room to go and room to grow. We are not at a stage where we should, or the government should refrain the use, but more embrace it and make sure that it's done correctly. And honestly, I think we are going this way. And when you look at Bitcoin miners like us who are publicly listed, we are more and more professional. It's over us the time where some Bitcoin miners were edgy or Bitcoiners were edgy. We showed that in 2009, 10, 11, 12, it's possible that Bitcoin was used for different kind of like operations that was borderline legal or illegal. It's not the case anymore. We are professionalizing ourselves, and we are showing the way. And let's go for it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's not surprising. It's not surprising what you said, and you said something about any new technology, any new innovation. It's been attacked, and it just kind of reminds me of this like caricature, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, Romain, of the electricity in like the 1900s, and essentially like this woman being like shocked to death, just like don't electrify society, it's extremely dangerous. And it kind of reminds me, when you were saying that, it just reminded me of that image for some reason. Anyways,
Totally.
I'm gonna pass it on to you, Rustin. Rustin, do you have any takes on this?
All right. I'm going to try here because it's Liz. And she just gets under my skin, that face, her tone of voice. But let's get started here. Terrorism by crypto. You said it, 400,000. What about 600 billion? Are we going to talk about that? And Hamas? Or why aren't they pointing that out? See, this is the pot calling the kettle black. They are going to point out their own felonious activities and push that on to the other person. And when she was giving this spew in Congress, it was incredible because on live TV, she was getting debunked by senators and also financial surveillance experts that broke down how these people are using sovereign funds and the fiat system to fund their activities. So we have that. And these people by the day are losing credibility on a massive scale. And when she speaks to Jerome Powell and they're talking about the Fed and things, when she tries to say, these people are price gouging, she has no understanding of basic economics. So that is how do you get on the banking committee? I guess she's easy to manipulate and get them to support their narratives because she's kind of incapable of thinking for herself. But the government printing and stealing from people, that's going to go the way of the dinosaur, just like Liz. And of course, they want to keep that ability to live rent-free and provide no value. If you didn't have to do anything and you could live off free printed counterfeit money, I guess that's a good deal for some people. But again, the statists are going to become extinct, and that's going to coincide as they go. It's probably going to be a decade, and that'll be Bitcoin's rise, coinciding with that, the rise of freedom and prosperity, freeing ourselves from the shackles of the state and their ilk, like Elizabeth Warren. Their actions go against everything they try to preach or promote. So go ahead and look at that. Look at their actions, not their words. In North Korea, what kind of straw man, weak ass argument is this? They just spew mierda out of their mouth, okay? And it's just completely bonkers. And so I just can't wait until the tales of history come back and say, maybe we should have had IQ tests or something along those lines when people came into the Senate. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming, guys. But hey, I'm with Jack Ballers. Game over. We're going to the moon. See you, Liz.
Wait. Before I'm happy we have our in-house libertarian here at Simply Bitcoin. Opti, what the other side of the spectrum? What's your take?
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but did you see when Elizabeth Warren or whatever you guys want to call her comes on, she literally couldn't not laugh when she started to talk about this. I think this might have been one of those Freudian moments. She kind of like giggled and you're like sitting here like, this is supposed to be serious. And the first thing she does is start laugh. And you're just like, what is going on here? She
knows her statement is so
it's laughable. She's laughing on air. And here we are. Everyone's taking her serious. Like it's really incredible that this is where we are. You know, everyone's favorite Karen out there is basically here to protect the world. And what she said, the last thing she said on that clip was, we can't allow this to happen. Like, who is we that we're talking about? Who is this we? Because
we can't allow this to happen. We should be looking at the banks and JP Morgan's. She just cited JP Morgan as like some saint. Like he has the moral like superiority to come out and talk about illegal activity. What what about the old island financing and that? And he gets a little slap on the wrist.
All right. Let's reel it in. All right. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. They're a big supporter of the show. And of course, I am talking about Bitcoin 2024. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference on the planet, July 25th through the 27th in Nashville, Tennessee. You definitely don't want to miss it. You want to get your tickets quickly. You can get yourself a GA ticket for $349, an industry pass that gives you access to 3 days of the conference for $1,099, and a VIP access that gives you VIP pass, and that gives you access to the deep backstage VIP lounge for $4,999. That I got to meet Tulsi Gabbard backstage last year. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So I definitely definitely recommend going to this Bitcoin conference. It's the largest Bitcoin conference in the world, and we have a promo code for you guys. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get a 10% discount to this Bitcoin conference.
And Mako, this is the conference likely following a flood of ETF approvals. Yep. And the halving gonna be dope.
Yep, it's the Bitcoin conference, the year of the halving, so it's definitely extremely exciting. All right, everybody, no more delay. Let's get into the culture so we can talk about Bisato. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. We love Swan because they incentivize self-custody and dollar cost averaging. What are you waiting for? Visit SwanBitcoin.com today. All right, everybody. We are going to talk about Bisato today. Opti, let's share the screen. Here we go. We're putting it up on the screen right now. Rustin, you have some questions prepared. Why don't you jump into it?
Absolutely. Man, I'm so excited to get this going because the pairing of mining with AI just got my mind going in so many directions. But just to get started, what are, kind of the ethos and mission behind Bisato, and what are you guys seeking to accomplish? And, what are kind of the implications of AI in Bitcoin mining, and where are you looking to take all that?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it. Simply put, long term, we're building ultra efficient infrastructure for managing computing power. Originally, we started with Bitcoin mining in 2017. I started the company myself. I'm an entrepreneur for the past 25 years. I started with the internet back in 1995. I've seen also the people fighting internet the same way that they are fighting Bitcoin right now. So I've seen it. I know what it is. I'm not the only one, of course, but this is a kind of like a story I'm bringing to the company. When we started originally, it was for fun. We were like, hey, being in technology, Bitcoin is great. Bitcoin mining sounds simple and easy. We were living in New York, and we decided to find a mining site, and we found Quebec, one of the best places in the world for mining Bitcoin, because not only the energy is renewable, but it's stable, and it's also super well priced. We pay around 4.3 cents a kilowatt hour. So it means an electricity price for the full year of 2023 until today, the cost of producing 1 Bitcoin in electricity is around $14,000, 1.4 in US. So it's an extremely great price. It's an extremely great buying price of the Bitcoin, and even better when the Bitcoin goes to the 43, 44, and we hope way higher, depending on the prediction that you said earlier. So that's who we are. We're publicly listed in 2021, a little bit at the late stage of the last bull market. We listed on the Canadian market for Satoshi Nakamoto, obviously. And we're also available in the US under the ticker OTCQB CCPU.F. So it's very easy to find us. And of course, people can go on our website. We wanted to get listed first to bring some kind of transparency into the industry. And being listed, this is what it is. You need to show. We had to show the 4 years or 5 years of full account, audited account. We are publishing our financial every quarter. We are publishing monthly our numbers about our production. Today we run 20 megawatts of energy. We represent a little bit less than 0.1 5% of the total hash rate network. We run 6,000 computers, gigs, and we make around 12 Bitcoin per month. We're not the bigger, we are bigger than us. But in the industry, the one who wins are the most performant and the more efficient. And that's what we have built, because we are transforming our energy ourselves into computing power. And this is where the link happens with AI. Because what we've learned, what we've done, the way we manage our infrastructure, yes, it will be different for AI and HPC. You don't run the same type of data centers for AI and HPC. You need to have redundancy in electricity, a higher cooling system, internet access, the generators, this kind of stuff. However, the magical thing we have in Bitcoin mining, as you know, is the curtailment or the demand response that we can do. We are the only industry, technologically speaking, who can turn the computer off and on in milliseconds or seconds. And that way we can balance an electrical grid. And by mixing AI, our vision is that we will be able to manage a grid with Bitcoin mining and keep a stable energy for AI and HPC. And that way we can continue using the energy at the local level where we operate. For example, in Quebec, we're in a city called Joliette. It's an hour north of Montreal. It's a very lovely city. But with us, they have been able to monetize the energy that was wasted before. They've been able to make more revenues from it, more margin from it, that they can redistribute to their constituents. We have employees, not a lot. It's true in Bitcoin mining, we don't have lots of employees, but also in Quebec, they have no unemployment issues. We have also made work with a lot of contractors around the city where we are, probably like $3 or $4 million. Electrician, construction, etc. So it's bringing about revenues, and it's bringing wealth to the local level we are. And what we are trying to do, anyone having like this local approach, but what we are trying to do is to show the benefit we can make at this local approach, and then show how it could be made at a state or even at a country level. Managing the grid for the next 15 to 20 years for computing power. It's not only Bitcoin mining, it's certainly also computing power for AI and HPC. My guess is that the demand for AI has been undervalued by the market. We're going to need way more power. And in order to have computing power, originally you need to have electricity, and you need to have people who know how to transform this electricity into computing power. And that's what we do. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to continue for too long.
No, man. Thank you so much. So that kind of flows in perfect. So Sato, you guys are really into sustainability. And so what do you aim to do with that? And you have that cheap access. And how do you particularly aim at hydroelectric powered operations like that in Quebec and that load shedding agreements? How does that work for you guys and the economics there? And especially in like Canada, where you have these just wicked winters, and how does that work and benefit just the people in that community where the miners are?
Yeah, very great question. The benefit because they can get energy when it's cold. That's what happened with us in Quebec in winter. Sometimes the electricity providers, they need to manage a peak of activity coming from the heaters in the houses. And by turning off our energy, they can then use the energy to their max, because the municipality we're in some way, it's similar to a PPA. You have a maximum of energy they can use. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say they have 100 megawatts of energy. They want to run their operation at 80 megawatts because you don't want to run your electricity and your system at 100%. You want to distance. And their city use 60 megawatts, and they have this 20 megawatts that wasn't used before. But they need this 80 megawatts of this extra 10 to 20 megawatts because in winter, during the day or during the night, they have a peak of demand, and then they need to produce more energy and send more energy to the resident. Before us, because of this peak, they were not able to sell this energy. With us, they can sell this energy. This is why it's major. And this is why at the local level, we are already bringing some for the population. We are not using energy could be used for something else. We are just using wasted energy that we can use for Bitcoin mining.
I want to focus on that last part because I thought, could you wide shot it? Thank you, Murphy. So I want to focus on that last part, which is this idea that Bitcoin mining, you said it was wasted energy, and that's a misconception. That's one of the talking points, essentially. Bitcoin mining uses too much energy. Well, no, Bitcoin mining uses energy that was already going to waste, because if it was being used, it wouldn't be economical for Bitcoin miners to use that said energy, right? And they paint this misconception in the media of, Bitcoin miners just setting up shop in the middle of a city and just bringing up the prices up for everybody. That doesn't make any sense, right? Bitcoin miners are like water. They're going to flow to the cheapest electricity sources because that makes it the most economical for them. And that creates, and Romain, and this topic itself is fascinating to me, because for the first time in human history, we have something that monetizes wasted energy or stranded energy. Nothing else before that. Maybe I'm incorrect here, but my memory, I can't think of anything else that gives this stranded energy, this wasted energy value. And you're seeing that along many fields, right? So you have hydro, you have that otherwise could potentially be very stranded because it was in a remote area. You have flared gas, you have methane, you have all these, different types of, wasted energy, stranded energy that's somehow being monetized. So could you talk a little bit about that, about how Bitcoin is changing the energy industry itself?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's unique. Only Bitcoin can provide this kind of flexibility with the computing power that they are providing. So we can really deploy we decided to be in Quebec. It's a one provider of energy. 97% is hydroelectricity. The rest, it's biomass, wind and solar, but almost producing no carbon emission. But in more than us, and for the whole industry and the Bitcoin industry, we can go where energy is wasted, usually at low cost, and we can sometimes even lower the carbon footprint, mainly with flare gas, as you were mentioning. And there are studies probably that from this that you've known called Daniel, showing how the reuse of the methane from the flare gas and the CO2 could be reused into energy, and then even lower the temperature of the Earth in the coming years for the Paris Climate Accord. I think that is for 26 or maybe a little bit more. So it's really the only technology companies that can do that. Marathon have started to do converting energy from waste. So the waste, the trash, really from our life, instead of putting them in a field, you can use the methane it creates, or you can burn them. Some miners are burning tires and reusing the heat to produce energy. The beauty of Bitcoin is that we are focusing on efficiency, and if we want to survive, we need to be efficient. And to be efficient, we will need to find this kind of ways. And this is what I love this industry. That's why I'm passionate with what we do, because it's not only us. We have the electricity. We are reusing our heat, for example. And more Bitcoin miners are also using their heat. We can do it for heating apartments. And all of a sudden, not only you heat up your apartment, but you make Bitcoin at the same time. Innovation is everywhere. It's only the beginning, but the bottom line is that we are focusing on efficiency, and this efficiency, it is what is needed in the next, again, 5 years. I don't want to sound too long-term vision and etc. But we are at a verge, I think, where the environment debate is behind us. Maybe I'm a little bit optimistic. Maybe it's going to take more. And when I see Senator Warren, I understand that we still have some work to do. But I really believe that in today's world, efficiency and using the energy the right way for computing power is something that is needed everywhere. If you are a government and if you don't have that ready in your country, you will lose your efficiency, not only as a country, but for your citizens, your companies. And at some point, they will need to contact and use. This is also the beauty of being in North America, Canada, US. It's a kind of a free market. It's the private companies, even if we are public, but the private projects that can finance themselves use the network of companies like us, ultra professional. We are not the only one. We have huge companies who are listed on the Nasdaq. doing what we do. We are listed in Canada under the TSXV. We want to follow these steps. We've seen the success from Iris, CleanSpark, Bitfarm. We've seen how they were able to deploy capital and to grow intelligently. We want to follow that step and grow and add more computing power for Bitcoin. We're a Bitcoin believer. We love Bitcoin for a long time. We are even developing applications for the Lightning Network and ordinals because we want to provide infrastructure also for the software part. This is also where I'm coming from. I was more coming from the software part earlier. The innovation in our industry is so key that I think it's only going to grow and be developed and asked around. Other Bitcoin miners, I think it's CleanSpark. They are developing themselves in Georgia, in the state of Georgia. They have this local approach. Showing that we can win at the local approach will make us even more at the global approach. It's going to take time. It's true that governments around the world can change, etc. But more and more places in the world start to realize the beauty of Bitcoin as a store of value, international transaction, and maybe one day the grand dream of the peer-to-peer network for non-solution. In the meantime, it's happening today.
Yeah, and I wanted to double back on something that you said in the beginning, Romain, about you being you've been an entrepreneur since the 90s. You saw the rise of the internet. Is there something unique about Bitcoin? Is there something about Bitcoin that you've never seen before? Because I've had this conversation with multiple entrepreneurs, and they're like, "This thing is special." So, is that something that you've experienced too? Because you've seen the rise and falls of many things. You've experienced the .com bust, the .com boom. So, is there something about Bitcoin that makes it different? And if it is different, why is it different? Why is it unique? Is there something? So, and I'll describe it from my point of view, right? It's like, yes, it's not only a technology, but there's something revolutionary about this. There's something that hits the soul. Maybe it's money itself. Maybe it's because money, as much as people don't like to admit it, money plays a critical role in society. It's half of every transaction. And if that money is broken, if that money is corrupted, that has downstream effects. So I wanted to get your take on that, Romain. Clearly you're a veteran. You've been here. You've done this for a while. What's your take on that?
Well, last question. Yes, Bitcoin is special. Bitcoin is magical. It's something that has never been done before, invented before. It's touching a lot of things, as you said, from technology to finance to freedom to worldwide payment system and solution of exchange and communication. It's opening everything. And in that way, I think Bitcoin is really unique in what they have done, and working on it today, I think there's nothing better. There is also, it's interesting to note a vision where Bitcoin and Satoshis could become the currency of AI. In some ways, because AI, you need to create some kind of request back and forth. You can monetize this with SAT. You can also use the SATs as the transaction ledger. Lots of things could happen. So it's really interesting to see the range of Bitcoin. And also one thing that is interesting right now is what's happening with ordinals. I know it's a big debate. You have some maxis who are against ordinals. You have pools who are not mining ordinals or inscribing ordinals. But the inventivity that has brought to Bitcoin is really magical. It's the time of when internet started, and all of a sudden you have things popping up everywhere, new invention, and we are in that period. So it's the best. It's not only ordinals. You have a federation. Of course, Lightning Network type of multi-sig signature and etc. DLCs are also very interesting and in development, and it's only the beginning. So that's where it differs from everything that I've seen before. And what we are building today, I think, is going to be something huge in the coming 5-10 years, and it's going to be behind us. We're going to see the same flip we've seen with the internet. In '99, people stopped complaining about the internet. At the end, it became normal. We're going to have this flip at some time. It will take more time in different kind of countries and different kind of legislation, but eventually it will really be mainstream and everywhere.
Absolutely, 100%. Oh man, I really, really enjoyed this.
Wait, Nico, before we go though, I'd just like to highlight, if you contrast the numbers, we saw Elizabeth Warren talking, we have Romain talking, and it just goes to show that like it's completely fabricated lies that we're hearing, that we're all criminals. And I think Romain, you're just a perfect example of being an entrepreneur and why we are all into Bitcoin and the improvements that it does give us. And I think just like, if you in your mind you contrast the difference between her messaging and our messaging, I think it's very clear to anyone who's actually paying attention to the numbers. If they still have some critical thinking and logic left in their brains, they will understand that Bitcoin is really winning.
100%. Wow. I really, really enjoyed that segment. All right, everybody, let's get to news. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, everybody, I made it super easy for you guys. Remember, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Foundation Devices website where you can get yourself an open source hardware wallet, the Passport. That's the one that we recommend at Simply Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Anyways, so let's talk about this. And I'll be honest with you guys, we usually don't talk about price on the show. We don't like to speculate and whatever. But the thing is, when Adam Back is saying 700K Bitcoin, when Bloomberg is saying 500K Bitcoin, you're going to have to cover it. And then we're going to break down, let's look at some data. Let's look at some facts, because you could just throw out a number there and you could say, this is the number, this is how it's going to happen. But let's kind of connect the dots, because this is what we do here at Simply Bitcoin. So this is the Bloomberg article. Bitcoin hype machine kicks into overdrive while cryptocurrency surges past 42,000. Bitcoin topping 42,000 is just the start of a fresh crypto super cycle. Again, I love how the media still says crypto, but it's really big. They're talking about Bitcoin, but they somehow put crypto in there. Bitcoin super cycle that will push the world's biggest token above $500,000. And what I heard say is the new monetary order taking Wall Street by storm. Holy cow. Anyways, goes on to say, such is the palpable sense of euphoria within the digital assets community right now, where the largest token is coming off its third months of gains, adding another 11% so far in December to trade at its highest since the market began to implode in April 2022. All of the excitement about the surge is bringing out hype up predictions about further gains, most of them based on little else than intuition or obscure technical analysis. The cryptocurrency is in the midst of a revival few saw coming this year. It's added more than 150% so far in 2023, as many market watchers anticipate an exchange-traded fund that directly holds the token could soon be approved to trade in the US. The jubilation prompted Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, for instance, to post that, quote, Bitcoin may be the key to extending Western civilization. Something to note, he is the CEO of one of the largest crypto casinos, but he didn't say crypto. He said Bitcoin. I just want to point that out. Anyways, it goes on to say, meanwhile, the prophecies for how high the coin could go spanned anywhere from 50,000 in the media term to above 530,000. Quote, it's getting crazy again, said Matt Melly, the chief market strategist at Miller Tabak Co. Those kind of comments show just how quickly sentiment can change for this asset class. It goes on to say, quote, I would argue that one of the most important reasons Bitcoin rallied so strongly in 2020 and 2021 was because of the massive influx of liquidity into the system due to the pandemic. Quote, without another huge liquidity program, some of those predictions are a pipe dream. Anyways, moving on to Adam Back's prediction, says digital gold Bitcoin will surely flip physical gold sooner or later, and probably this halving cycle. So within a year or two, currently I would take 700K Bitcoin, but it may be partially a substitute. Some people start selling gold to Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin, crossing the market cap below that, right? So it's very, very interesting. And I know Romain mentioned the gold market cap earlier. Now let's kind of tone down the hopium a little bit and let's talk about why these things could happen. First, the Bitcoin supply, all-time high, most of it has been inactive, 70% to be specific. This has never happened in Bitcoin's history, right? We have the halving coming up. So about half the sell pressure is going to be cut in half about in April of next year. So you have the halving, you have the fact that there is not enough Bitcoin to go around. You have the fact that Nayib Bukele's buying Bitcoin strategy has been vindicated the moment Bitcoin passed 40K. Nayib Bukele is now in the green. And Michael Saylor's strategy as holding Bitcoin as an alternative to holding fiat on the company's balance sheet has also been vindicated. He's been in the green since I think his average buy-in price is about $30,292 per coin, right? And here is, because we connect the dots for you guys, here is a Twitter Spaces recording that Michael Saylor joined where he basically made the case. What are the three things that need to happen in order for this is way too bullish, so I'm not going to read the number exactly, but if you guys are watching the video, which you totally should, you guys could read that number. But he said these three things needed to happen in order for Bitcoin to 3x from here. So I'll play you guys the recording and then we'll talk about it.
I think the catalyst that 10x is, it really is the moment that JP Morgan Chase or other big money center banks can custody these for large corporates. That's it. That's the sea change, because there's really no reason why they shouldn't be diversifying the assets on their balance sheet. Is that your take? Because I know that, like Tim Cook, I don't know where it came from earlier this week. He said something like, I own some Bitcoin, but we have no designs on anything. Or I don't know if he said Bitcoin or crypto in general. Is that the thing? And then
I think there's three big. Look, first of all, it's going up by a factor of 10, whether they fix any of the stuff, right? It's going to be a grind up by a factor of 10, just because gold is broken. And Bitcoin's going to replace gold. And now everybody in the universe knows they need a non-sovereign store of value in the form of a bearer instrument. So now they're looking, the amount of stories, for last year, people said inflation may be coming, we're not sure. Now the mainstream narrative is flipped to inflation is here, you need an inflation hedge. So it's going to grind up to replace gold. It'll go to $500,000 a coin, regardless of whether they fix these things. But there are three things that are massive catalysts that cause an acceleration. And I don't think that those three things don't take us to 500,000, they take us to 5 million a coin, right? Those three things are a spot ETF where someone can go ahead and buy $100 million of Bitcoin, buy a security, an ETF security. I think that's one. Two is your bank is going to custody it for you and lend against it. And three is I can mark it up or mark it down on my balance sheet based on fair value. Pari passu. It'll be pari passu to the way I'd handle Apple stock, or at least that good. If you have property with fair value accounting, by the way, it becomes pari passu to the way you'd handle treasury bonds on a treasury balance sheet. Treasuries are better than stocks because treasury is property, whereas a stock is a security, and you're capped out at 40% of your balance sheet as security. So it would be a major, major breakthrough if you saw any of those three things. And I'll end with this one observation. I tweeted this last week, but I think it's very powerful. If the banks can hold this stuff on their balance sheet, then a whole new class of investors are going to buy it. People are going to put in billion and multi-billion dollar orders to buy it as a treasury.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. So that recording was 2 years ago. And two out of those three things have happened. So first thing is the FASB votes in favor of fair value accounting for Bitcoin. Those rules are set to go into effect as soon as 2025. So that was one of the major catalysts that Saylor described needed to happen. The other one was major banks gearing or preparing themselves for them to custody Bitcoin for their clients. Here's HSBC to launch storage services for tokenized securities as more big banks warm to blockchain. It's so effing crazy how they do that. And then Deutsche Bank, or to hold crypto for institutional clients. Also, not to mention the fact that Swan announced Swan Institutional as well. So yeah, this is all coming together. This is an article that dropped a couple days ago. U.S. Bitcoin ETF issuers talks with SEC have advanced to key details. So it looks like that's making progress as well. So those are the three things that Michael Saylor said needed to happen in order for Bitcoin to 10x from here. Mind you, two of those three things have happened, and the ETF is on the verge of being approved, hopefully in January. So this is absolutely crazy. Now, Romain, please pull down the bullishness. Please bring us down from the moon. Or are you seeing what we're seeing?
Well, I mean, first off, it's difficult to be better than Michael Saylor. I really love him. He's always spot on. He has a clear vision. Some risk. He took some risk. He's really amazing, and he made Bitcoin miners. He was the instigator originally of the BMC, the Bitcoin Mining Council, which is a gathering of many North American and now a little bit more international Bitcoin miners that are on our side. So it's great to hear him, and even if it's 2 years on. I'm sure today we are getting there, and the missing part ETF I think will happen. Will can still be have a deception. We never. I mean, there is a possibility that something bad will happen. I don't believe it. I really believe that we are going to go into a Bitcoinization of the world more and more. And the beauty of the ETF, if it happens and when it happens, not only it will bring cash to Bitcoin, but it will bring respectability. All of a sudden, it will be okay for people to buy, to access it, whether via their banks or the way they will invest into the ETF. So I think it's more than just the value of it. But in terms of value, we look at it, and myself, I mean, as a Bitcoin miner, I don't look at the price. It's a lie. I look at the price, but most of the time I try to look at the cycles. I try to look at the cycles, and to see how can I deploy more mining power and computing power in the different kind of cycles. Because in the Bitcoin mining industry, the difficulty is to align time with, timing your energy, financing your miners, and getting access to the data centers running. So every time aligning everything is always the most difficult things, and being able to navigate during a bull that we've seen before we started in 2017 and in a bear is also key. But obviously, when the Bitcoin is going nuts, the market is going nuts, I believe that Bitcoin is going to grow by effect. Publicly, Bitcoin miners are going to also grow like crazy, not only us. My theory, my guess is that it might, of course, I have no magic ball, but it might be the first bigger brands first, the one, and then will come the junior like us. We are junior. We are trying to qualify to become the senior of the next bull. It's a business that needs lots of capex to deploy, not only for building the infrastructure, but also for buying the mining rigs and the computing power. But it's right there. So this is the excitement. This is what is great to be in right now, because we think we are at the beginning of this cycle. And it's a cycle where we can really go to a huge level.
Absolutely, 100%. I feel as bullish as you, Romain. I think that this next cycle is going to be absolutely crazy. Guys, we are going to have to wrap it up because the unconfiscatable stream is starting right now. So I do want to thank our guest, Romain. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Check out Sato. Like I said, it's like Romain said, it's publicly listed in Canada and the US as well, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Okay.
We got to get Romain back to talk like the implications of AI and Stratum V2 and building templates and what that's going to be.
Okay. I would love
And on this subject, I would add one thing that we didn't mention today. It's really interesting. Fees. The increase of fees are reducing the impact of hash rate on our revenues. And it's a great event today, and I think it's a great event in the future for us Bitcoin miners post-halving. But anyway, that's probably for another conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Romain. Really, really enjoyed you coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. So the unconfiscatable live stream is up right now. So all you guys got to do is you guys got to tune in to Tone Vays' YouTube channel. And you'll be able to see it. I was just looking at the stream a second ago, and it seems like Jack Mallers is saying some words. So we're going to wrap it up here. Tune in to the Tone Vays channel for day 2 of Unconfiscatable. We also have the Simply Bitcoin news desk during lunch, also on the Tone Vays channel as well. So tune in there. And guys, we'll be back around 1:30 Pacific time. Peace out, everybody.
Not to mention your panel later.
Yeah. I'm going to be on a mining panel later. It's going to be interesting. Debate public miners versus private miners is going to be interesting. Bob Burnett's going to be there. We have Ben Gagnon from Bitfarm. So it's going to be Hodl Tarantula. So it's going to be a very, very exciting panel. Anyways, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Tune in to Unconfiscatable, Tone Vays' channel. Peace out, everybody.
For everyone in Twitter Spaces, we are going to switch over to